Welcome back to Words of the Wise. Today I have Chief Palomo from Southwest Independent School District Police Department in San Antonio, Texas. He has over 35 years experience in law enforcement. Welcome to the show, Chief Palomo. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Paige, and thanks for having this platform. I believe it's very beneficial to first responders. So I'm honored to be here today.
Of course. No, I'm really looking forward to our conversation. I was hoping you could give a little bit of background. 35 years is a long time to be in law enforcement.
Sure. I spent some time in the Army, active duty, and then I got out and I was looking for a career that was kind of similar to the military. Law enforcement is paramilitary, so it was a natural fit for me. So I started with the City of San Antonio Airport Police Department, and I spent about 3 years there. Then I transitioned to ISD policing in the state of Texas back in the I want to say mid 80s, our lawmakers allowed ISDs to form their own police departments. So I kind of got in the on the ground level of school district policing. So I started from the bottom, worked my way up. I've been a police chief for over 18 years now. I've served in a large inner city school district. I've worked in rural. I worked in the border ISD down in Laredo, Texas. Then I wound up here at Southwest. I came back home because my parents were aging, so I decided to come back and take care of my parents. And I landed here at Southwest, which has been a wonderful organization, has really allowed me to implement some really progressive programs. And we're really changing the trajectory for our young kids here at Southwest. And Southwest is located in San Antonio, Texas, right outside of the county and on the southwest quadrant of San Antonio. San Antonio is a big city. There's probably over 40 police departments here in the city of San Antonio alone with San Antonio Police Department and Bexar County Sheriff's Office being the largest agency. But like I said, we have over 40 agencies here in Bexar County and in San Antonio, Texas.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm interested in knowing maybe some of the unique differences or challenges working in school policing versus maybe working in, a department. Can you share maybe some of those challenges or differences?
Absolutely. Working for a county or a city, they're more what I call a traditional law enforcement agency where they really don't have the opportunity to really make an impact on their communities because they're going from call to call,
Mm,
right? Especially in the city of the size of San Antonio, we are the second largest city in Texas and seventh in the nation. So you
wow.
can imagine the volume of calls that those officers have to handle. Whereas in ISD, you're really in a unique position to really make a difference in young people's lives, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, but a couple of years ago, right after the Uvalde shooting in Uvalde, Texas, our governor signed a bill, House Bill 3, that required every school district in the state of Texas to have armed police officers at all their campuses, right?
Mm,
I believe this was about 2 years ago. So
okay.
we were one of the first ISDs to have officers assigned to every single campus, which is over 20, right?
Mhm.
As I mentioned earlier, I was a firm believer that being in that position, officers can really change the trajectory of our young people by planting those seeds of hope and coming up with some very progressive prevention programs. I would rather spend my time and effort in helping young people be successful than working with them on the back end as they get older, where you have to, either arrest them. You don't have a whole lot of choice once they become adults, right? I think we're in a unique position to really help young people and help them become successful community members. And I believe you'll see a change in discipline and arrest records 4 or 5 years down the road, especially with our elementary kids, because we're embedded in those campuses. And not only are we keeping those kids safe, but we do more than that. We do so much more. And as we go through the program, I'll share some of the things that we are doing. We're very progressive.
I appreciate that. And it sounds to me like you have this unique opportunity to shape the trajectory of their lives. And it's more of the proactive approach of, trying to get in on the front end to make those positive changes so that hopefully we reduce any sort of, issues or crime on the back end. So I love that that's what you're focusing on. I think that it is a unique opportunity to make a positive impact early in people's lives. I wanted to circle back a little bit. I know you said that You served in the Army, the Navy, 35 years of law enforcement, and now you advocate for mental health. But you also shared with me when we spoke offline that you had some personal struggles with mental health early in your life. And I was hoping that maybe you can share with our listeners some of the things that you experienced in your life.
Sure, absolutely. So I kind of just want to talk about a couple of tenets that we subscribe to here at Southwest, right? This is our beliefs, especially for my leadership team. Uh, I always tell them that we're in the people business, right? So I really focus a lot on making sure that we hire the right person for the job. So I already kind of have a profile of who I'm looking for, right? Uh, and a lot of the officers that we hire come to us with baggage in their backgrounds when they were young, right? And I'm one of those individuals that people didn't give me a chance when I was young. So I really had to prove myself to a lot. And I find that a lot of those officers kind of gravitate to our department, those folks that, nobody really gave them a chance, but here they are now. They're doing some good things. And I'll talk about that as we go through the program. But we live and breathe this every day. We tell people we're in the people business. Our people come first. I want to make sure that our officers are taken care of because law enforcement has really evolved over the last 20, 30 years, right? 20, 30 years ago, mental health was not discussed. It was taboo, right?
Mhm.
And they really didn't care about taking care of you. You had a job to do. You had a mission to do. It's kind of like the military. They didn't issue you kids. They didn't issue you wives. So they really didn't care about your family, right? But I've been around long enough that I know that I had to evolve. As law enforcement evolved, I had to evolve as a leader. And I had to understand that, hey, look, you're not dealing with the same top individuals that you were dealing with 20, 25 years ago in terms of employees or police officers, right? That has changed. The officers that are coming to us now, they're better trained, they're better educated, and they know what they want. They're very family oriented. They enjoy their time off. So I had to change as a leader, right? I had to shift my paradigm in terms of leadership. Back 20 years ago, it was very autocratic. You told people what to do, and they did it.
Mhm.
That doesn't work these days. You have to be able to connect and relate to people. And I think for a lot of folks, law enforcement was not an option, especially if they had kids, because it involves shift work, right? And if you're a single mom, shift work's not going to work for you, right? Because you're gonna have to find somebody to take care of your kids, right? So I took all that into consideration and I made it a priority to really focus on our officers and our people. How can we help you? Uh, we're very family oriented, and I know that sounds kind of cliche, but we're an extended family,
Mhm.
and we take care of our officers and we listen to them when they have family concerns. We understand that if they have little ones, there's going to be issues that are going to come up. Kids are going to get sick. They have doctor's appointments. So we work with their schedule. We work with them. And they feel comfortable coming to us to talk to us about their family issues because they know that we're not going to be judgmental. That, okay, what do you need? How can we help you? How can we support you? Because if I have an officer that's on duty, that is not focused, that is worried about his family, he's not going to give me 100%. He's not going to be able to perform and do his job if he's worried about his family. So we focus on family. Take care of your family first. We'll get the job done. We'll figure it out here. But come back to us when you're ready. And we really internalize that. And we're seeing some great, great results in terms of that, in terms of retention. People want to come to us because, okay, we're family oriented. They want to stay with us. And it helps us retain and recruit officers, especially the ones that have kids. So in my particular agency, I have a lot of officers that live in the community that they serve. So I have buy-in from them because they know, okay, their kids can attend this district. They can gives them a peace of mind knowing that, okay, if something happens, I can go take care of my son or daughter because I'm here, right?
Mhm.
And as a parent, you want peace of mind. You want to know that your kids are safe at school. And schools should be an islands of safety. And that's what we project and that's what we try to live by to make sure that our kids are on this island of safety and we provide that level of peace of mind to our officers, right? So a lot of them come to us for that simple reason that we're very family oriented and we mean that. And going back to your question about mental health is a big issue in our society, right? Over 59 million Americans suffer from some mental health condition.
Mm.
And all my life, I struggled with anxiety. I knew I had it, but serving in law enforcement and in the military, that was taboo. You didn't talk about that. You just kind of sucked it up and did your thing. So I had to cope with it on my own. Uh, I just kind of told myself, hey, look, there's not a whole lot you can do, but you got to do it. You got a job to do. You got to feed your family. You got to go to work. Just deal with it, right? So I suppressed a lot of that stuff that I was dealing with. So here at our agency, we take a very scientific approach to mental health, right? What is that mental health? What does it look like? What is the science behind that? We know that for juveniles, especially males, that prefrontal cortex is where all the impulses are at, emotions, all that, all those good things that you need to survive are right up here, this prefrontal cortex. We know that males are very impulsive, right? And the science says that that brain doesn't fully develop till you're about 25. And for some of us, probably in our 40s or 50s, right? But we know the science behind it, right? I think that's important for law enforcement to understand why people do some things that they do, right? But if you're not well versed on mental health and what that looks like and what causes some of those issues, you just think somebody's being defiant, they're being insubordinate, they don't want to listen to you. But those issues have a way of manifesting themselves in certain behaviors, right? So our officers understand that. So I had to do some research because I kept going to a lot of different community meetings and I kept hearing this term ACEs, ACEs. So I did the research, which ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And a lot of your experiences in your childhood can impact your adult life if they don't get treated, right? So
Yeah.
I had a lot of adverse child experiences in my life. And there is I want to call it a survey that you can take to see if you have any aces in your life. But I can safely say that all of us have at least one
Mhm.
aces in our lives, right? And I took the test. It's 1 through 10, right? And I was like a 5 on the scale. Uh, so as I did the research, I began to realize, okay, some of the things you did as a young adult are related back to your childhood. There's a direct correlation, right? Although ACE is not a mental health condition, but if it doesn't get resolved, it can turn into a mental health issue, right? So
Mhm.
that's where a lot of my anxiety came from. So I started addressing those issues that I was dealing with as an adult. I finally got it diagnosed in my adulthood, right? So I know a lot of people out there are struggling. Like I said, there's been a stigma on mental health for so many years, but I'm glad to say that it's really coming to the forefront now, and a lot of people are really comfortable talking about it now, right? Just like I am. I have no problems talking about it. And I want to share that story with anyone that wants to listen. I share that story with students because I know they're struggling, especially post-COVID. We're seeing a lot of kids with some serious depression issues, anxiety, suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation. They're just dealing with these different issues. And I just want to make sure that they understand that there's help out there and that a lot of us have dealt with those type of issues in our own lives, right? So I want to make sure that they understand that we're here to support them. And my officers, I want to make sure that they understand that I'm here to support them, that I know that, hey, we all have struggles in our life. Although we may look like, hey, we're fine on the outside, but inside we could be struggling. And if you don't address those issues that you're struggling with, like I said, it's going to manifest in some behaviors that could be detrimental to your health, like alcoholism. You see a lot of high divorce rates in the military and law enforcement, and a lot of those are because those mental health issues have been unresolved. So I'm a big advocate and a big proponent of mental health training. So our officers understand how ACEs work. That is mandatory training for all my officers. They all have to go through ACEs training. They all been certified in what ACEs looks like. Because I wanted to make sure if they get a call to one of their schools and why and a kid's acting out, I want them to understand why. I guarantee you that a kid's probably dealing with some ACEs in their lives, right? So our officers understand ACEs, how it impacts your behavior.
Mhm.
They understand trauma. Trauma has a big impact on your life and your behavior. And we serve a population that's economic disadvantaged. So I would say that over 95% of our kids are economic disadvantaged.
Mm,
Having said that, there's a lot of risk factors that come with being economic disadvantaged. But
right.
we don't look at that as a setback. We look at that as a challenge, and we accept that. And we're doing some amazing work in helping these young scholars overcome some of those obstacles that we had to overcome on our own. And we're helping them be successful in our school system and doing some great things. We got some kids going to some of the most prestigious universities in the United States. And that's because we work collectively and holistically with all our different departments. There's a lot of intercommunication. How can we best support these young people so they can become successful? So as I mentioned, we do ACEs training. We do trauma informed, what that looks like. And right now, currently, we're working on being a trauma informed law enforcement agency. There's a certification that we're going after. We're almost there. We're almost there. We would be the only ISD police department in the state of Texas to be trauma informed. All right.
Amazing.
And then we do what we called a crisis intervention training for young people. So we place a lot of emphasis on de-escalation, what that looks like, and how can we help these kids navigate these mental health challenges?
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and I wanted to touch on a few points that you made. I think that the more you can understand the why, the more empathy that you can have for other people. And so I love that you're taking an approach of let's start by educating our officers on why these behaviors might be happening so that they can have more resources to be able to handle that situation, but more empathy to be able to approach it in maybe a different way. And I I have spoken to a lot of first responders in my life, and we all, I say we, because I would put myself in that category. Most of us have gone through stuff in our childhood. I wouldn't say most, a lot of first responders have high ACEs scores, right? And it's not just, I think it's important to remember that it's not just work stressors, it's life stressors that compound over time, right? We have things in our childhood that maybe we didn't have. I mean, in my case, I didn't have the resources to deal with those things. And so I did what I think most people do is you shove it down, you posture up, you learn how to survive. I love that you said on the outside, we may look really good, but on the inside, we're struggling because I deeply relate to that. That was my entire young life is trying to put on the face of I'm good, everything's good, but deep down, really struggling with things. And I also, like you, had really high anxiety, panic attacks. I was on antidepressants for a long time. I had flashbacks. And so that was a result of my childhood experiences and not being able to process the things that I had gone through. And then you enter into a career like law enforcement and you have work stressors that start compiling on top of that. And then maybe you have a family and you have, family stressors, and there has to be a deeper understanding of the why, but also how you can start to offload those things for yourself. And when you can understand that within yourself, I think that you can start to better, understand that and be there for others. So I love that you explained like understanding the why and having more empathy so that you can better protect and serve your community. I know that you mentioned a lot of the things that you are doing right now, and so I was hoping that maybe you can expand on that a little bit.
Right. So let me just kind of piggyback to what you were talking about.
Please.
So what I found out when I was doing my research on ACEs is that a lot of people that have high ACEs score are attracted to public service
Mhm.
professions, right? Like law enforcement and first responder careers, right? So I found out that a lot of my officers that are coming that work for me have ACEs in their lives, right? They're attracted. We want to make sure that we educate our community, our stakeholders about it's okay to have mental health issues. All right. There's resources and help out there. So a lot of our officers that come to us have similar backgrounds where they had tough childhoods, and they're here because they want to give back. Right. So, you always get asked, well, why'd you go into law enforcement? Well, like I said, it sounds cliche, but you want to make sure that you give back to the community and make sure that, especially these students have every opportunity to be successful, right? Because back in the day, I just dealt with it, right?
Yeah.
I just dealt with it. Uh, and I'm not proud to say that I did some things that I never should have done. All
Yeah.
right. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm just telling you that that was a part of me coping with these aces in my life. Right. So we do get a lot of officers here that had aces in their lives, and they are doing some amazing things for us. I mean, they are giving back. They're going above and beyond because they know what it is to struggle with
Yeah.
some of these issues that we've been talking about. So, but let me just share that the state of Texas is pretty progressive when it comes to mental health uh, care for officers, right? We have mental health leave for our officers. If they experience a traumatic event, they could put in for leave, and we're going to support them to get through that traumatic event, right?
Mhm.
Then we have this peer support network where my officers, I got several officers belong to this, where it's peer to peer, 24 hours. If you need help, you need to talk to somebody, all you got to do is get on the phone, and they're going to be there for you. Here in San Antonio, we have the 100 Club. All
Mhm.
right. And they have this app that I'm going to share with you right here. You can see it. All you got to do is get on the app, and there's providers that will help you if you're struggling with different issues, right? So
Yeah.
there's just so many different resources for our first responders, as opposed to, 20 years ago where, you know what? Yeah, deal with it, get over it. You got a job to do, right? But
Yeah.
now there's so much more support, which is really great. So kudos to the state of Texas for being so progressive when it comes to mental health. All right. But we're doing some great things here at Southwest. And my approach to policing has always been, I call it the pie approach to policing, which we place a lot of emphasis on prevention,
Yeah.
intervention, and enforcement, right? As I mentioned to you early on the show, that we're in a unique position to really make a difference in young people's lives by being role models. We're embedded. We're embedded there 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday. So we have a great opportunity to really build some positive relationship with kids. And that's what we do. Uh, we have different programs. One of the programs that we do is called Books and Badges, where we promote literacy because we know that if a kid can't read by third grade, they're probably going to drop out and be a stat, right?
Mm.
So our officers are there. They read during any time that they may have free. They can go into a classroom and read to the kiddos. So we're promoting literacy because we want our kids to make sure they can read. We don't want them to be a stat. So
Yeah.
that's one program that we do. But I've been involved in a lot of intervention programs. But by far, this program has had the most impact on young people. I'm sure you've heard of the school to prison pipeline.
Oh, yep. Yes.
Yeah, the theory, cool, school to prison
Yep.
pipeline, where it says that, where you have these policies that are so restrictive that school administrators really don't have a whole lot of flexibility or discretion. If the policy says, hey, Johnny will be expelled or suspended, you have to do it, right? So
Yeah.
a lot of those policies have really impacted kids that are economic disadvantaged and put them out of the school system. You want kids in the school system. You want them to learn. They're out there on the streets. They have a lot of idle time on their hands. That's why they have a tendency to get into trouble. So when I got hired here at Southwest about 8 years ago, my boss said, "Hey, look, there's way too many kids that are going to juvenile detention. We need to come up with some type of program to keep them out." So
Hmm.
I started doing my research, and I found out that in the state of Texas, under the family code, it allows us to put kiddos through a juvenile diversion program. So I started doing all the research. It took us literally about 30 to 40 years to get this thing off the ground. I had to meet with a lot of community stakeholders, elected officials. I had to meet with our juvenile probation board, and we finally came up with an MOU, and we developed a program that we call Promise. It's a juvenile offender program for first time offenders, right? And Promise stands for prevention preventing recidivism through opportunities, mentoring, intervention, support, and education. It's a juvenile diversion program for first-time offenders. We were scheduled to launch this in February of 2020, And you know what happened February 2020?
Yeah.
COVID hit, right? That was our first cohort. So I have some very sharp officers, very, very progressive self-starters. They said, you know what, Chief, let's go virtual with this thing. So first cohort, we went virtual with our first group of students. We had about 8 to 10. And the way this program works is that it's not a get out of jail card. Okay. Let me make that very clear. Uh, it consists of two phases. First phase is 6 weeks of instruction. It's very interactive. Uh, it includes restorative practices in there as well, trying to make the child and the victim whole, right? Uh, in the second phase, it's a 90-day probationary period. So once you finish phase one, you go into phase two. And if you keep your nose clean for 90 days, no police contact, you show up to school, you keep your grades up, and you finish that 90-day probationary period, you're gonna have an opportunity to shred your record. It's never gonna go into the Texas Criminal Information Center or NCIC, the National Information Crisis Center. It never gets entered into the CJ system. So you get a fresh start. You get literally a fresh start. And we've had so much success with this program. We're getting a lot of support from our local elected officials, state officials. We've done presentations at the state level, at the national level. Back in April, I was in Atlanta talking about this program. So it's garnering a lot of interest. We really believe that we have the framework for a state and national model to give kids a second opportunity. And this program is directly changing the trajectory for our young people, giving them a second chance to get a fresh start. And like I said, the unique part about this program that involves the parent and the kid and the student, right? And so we hold these sessions on a Saturday because we want to inconvenience those kids, right? They know that we know they like to sleep in on Saturdays. So we get them up here about 9 o'clock with their parent or guardian, and we put them through 6 sessions on a Saturday for 6 Saturdays. And we meet, we feed them breakfast, and we talk about all these life issues, right? We talk about mental health. We talk about, okay, why are you here? Why did you make that decision? So we talk about decision making. We talk about conflict resolution. And what we're finding out is that a lot of these issues go back to ACEs, right? So we unpack that and we talk about that. And we have community support. We have community leaders come talk to the kids, and it's had a lot of success. We've put 120 kids through the program, and I want to say about 110 have completed the program. I'm not a math major, but that's like 90%.
It's
So
great.
it's saving taxpayers money, it's saving parents money, and it's giving kids a second chance to get back on track and do something with their lives and be productive, right? So we're just really pleased and we're really honored to have this opportunity to really roll out this program. And like I said, I'm a big believer in community engagement, and it's built a lot of trust between us, the community, and students. And the reason why I wanted officers to do it, a lot of agencies that have similar programs like this, they use civilians, but I would have really wanted to humanize the badge, right? Because as I mentioned earlier, a lot of these kids are economic disadvantages. They've had bad experiences in their communities with police officers, all right? So I wanted to really strip uh, all those negative perceptions they had about police officers, and I wanted to humanize that badge, and we've been able to do that. We've been able to do that with this program.
I love it. There's so many things in there that I want to touch on because you said so many amazing things. One, I think to your point of um, first responders wanting to be in a position of service, and a lot of them coming from these adverse, childhoods or these challenging childhoods. I think that we don't want people to have to go through what we went through, right? Like there's this feeling of like if I can make a difference in someone's life, if I can give them the tools and resources, if I could help somebody in the way that I wish that I had that, I think that's where that burning desire comes from. And at least it is for me, like I didn't have any of those things. And as you're talking about this programming, I'm sitting here thinking, man, I wish I had that. Man, I wish that I had someone looking out for me when I was a kid because I didn't have those things. And um, I know you made that comment of, I maybe that you maybe made some decisions that you wish you hadn't, and it was a result or a symptom of what you had gone through, and it's a part of that coping mechanism. And I see that a lot in people who go through traumatic events or childhoods. When you don't know how to process things in a positive way, you start making those bad decisions, right? And you start getting into trouble. And I did that too. There were plenty of things that I did in my life that looking back, I'm like, man, I wish I didn't do that. But I have to give myself grace and understand why I did that. And I think that by having these conversations as a leader, it's relatable, right? It's relatable within your organization for officers to be like, wow, okay, like Chief gets it, like I went through that too, but I think even more so in the community and in your youth programs to be able to speak from that level of experience and say, hey, I get it. I went through maybe not the exact same thing that you went through, but I went through similar things. I also maybe made some decisions that weren't the best, but I'm here to show you that you have options, that you don't have to continue down this path. There is a pathway for you to be successful and to become something great. And I wish that I'm like going to get emotional. The bar was set so low for me. My parents were both drug addicts. My entire family like always told me growing up like you're going to become just like them. That was my bar, and they were like, and if you don't, like, that's best case scenario is that you graduate high school and you don't get pregnant and you don't become a drug addict yourself. That was my bar. And I didn't have someone saying, hey, you can go to a prestigious college. You can choose a different life for yourself. There are other people who are living, breathing examples of this who went through a similar situation as you. And look at them now. They're serving the community in this really positive way. And so I think you are doing amazing things to set the example for youth who maybe don't see a way out, who don't see another path for themselves, where everyone around them is telling them that they're nothing and that they're going to end up just like the people around them. And I think that that's what we need. We need more hope and, more mentorship. So I appreciate everything that you're doing. And I do want to give you a shout out because you didn't say this, and it's really humble for you not to say this, but you are nationally recognized for this program.
Yes, yes, we've been recognized at the national level and at the state level. And let me just say something about what you were saying. Your comments were spot on. Uh, Here at Southwest, a lot of our programs are evidence-based.
Mhm.
I want to know, I do the research. We do the research. Okay, what does the research show, right? And I can tell you that, and I always put this out when I talk to people, is that research shows that if a student has just one caring adult in the school system, there's a good likelihood that they're going to graduate high school, right? All it takes is one. So I always challenge people, be the one, all right? Because not everyone can be on the varsity soccer team, varsity football team, band, National Honor Society. A lot of kids are struggling, right?
Mhm.
A lot of kids struggle in the school system, right? So I always challenge people, be the one. Be the one. Seek that kid out that nobody talks to and encourage them, right? Doesn't cost you anything, right? Like I said, we're in the people business.
Mhm.
We are in the people business. Go out there and reach out to them and let them know, hey, look, you're going to be all right. I'm here. What do you need?
Yeah.
Let me support you, right? And we're just very fortunate that I work for a very progressive organization that understands all these different issues. Like I said, we take a very holistic approach. We bring all these different agencies, they work together. There's a lot of cross-functional communication. And I can tell you that they understand mental health is a big issue in our society. We stood up our own mental health clinic
Mhm.
where our kiddos can get support for mental health. All right. And most of the kids that come into our program, our Promise program, are for vape, THC oil, which is very addictive, right? So we address all those different issues and we give them support to be successful. And I'm proud to say that we have a lot of community partners that buy into what we're doing. and we get the help. All I have to do is pick up the phone, say, "Hey, look, I'm dealing with this. Can you help me?" People are willing to help. All
Yeah.
right. So I'm just blessed.
Yeah. Well, and I saw something recently on social media that talked about how law enforcement goes beyond enforcing the law. It's not just that. It's how can you support the members of your community in different ways. And we talked a little bit about this, but I think that everything is cyclical. And we know that right now there are a lot of communities that struggle with that idea of positive community support and partnership. And we know how that impacts everybody, right? It impacts the community and the trust that they have for policing. It impacts the officers and their mental health. And I think that the more positive interactions that can happen on both sides, that impacts recruitment, retention, mental health. If officers are having positive interactions, if they feel like they are helping people, they are more likely to stay in this job because they are serving their why to be able to actually help people. And then as a community, if you're setting that example early on in someone's life, and they're looking up to you guys, if you are that one person, like you said, that's that positive influence that showed up at the school, and you have a kid that's like, wow, I want to be like that. I want to be Officer Palomo or Chief Palomo one day. Like that's amazing. That's going to serve the next generation of officers who are striving to be in this career. And so I think that it all intertwines with mental health, recruitment, retention.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it starts with a leadership philosophy, a policing philosophy that's conducive to building that type of culture of community engagement. And, you got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to get out of your office. You got to go out and talk to community groups. Every opportunity that I get, I am talking about all the great things that we're doing. I am my department's biggest cheerleader. All
Mhm.
right. And I'm an advocate for economic disadvantaged youth because I was one of those kiddos where
Yeah.
nobody gave me a chance, right? Nobody gave me a chance, but here I am, right? I have a master's degree. Retired from the military. I've been blessed, and I want to make sure that kiddos look at me and say, "Well, yeah, look, he did it." Although I struggled in college, I made it. It wasn't easy. Life isn't easy, but it's those challenges, right, that you have to overcome to be successful. And like I said, I wasn't born with a silver spoon, but here I am. I've been blessed with a great career. I've had a lot of great mentors. So I think it's important for us to give back. And that is my why. And a lot of my officers who come to work for me, that's their why. They want to give back. They want to make a difference. They've been on the other side. They know what it means to, go hungry at night, not have somebody to support you while you're in school. So they get it. They get it. So I think they're a perfect fit for my organization. And the community sees that. They see the work that we're doing. They understand that we want to be here to help not only our kids but all our stakeholders.
Yeah.
And that just really drives our culture is that community engagement. And we have some wonderful community engagement with so many different community organizations, with our food bank, uh, communities and schools, so many different organizations, nonprofits that we work with, and we all work together for the same cause.
I love it. I wanted to talk a little bit about what you're doing organizationally as well, because I know you said that creating a culture of wellness and support is something that's really important to you. And you had mentioned that you wish you had some certain wellness resources earlier in your career, like financial literacy, mental health resources, and support. I was hoping that you could maybe explain some of the things that you think are the most important organizationally, and how departments can create that culture. How can you start providing these resources and create less stress within the organization so that when they are out in the community or at home, they're better versions of themselves?
Right. So, like I said, I've been in the business for over 35 years. I never recall ever going to a in-service meeting or having a meeting, a roll call meeting that talked about Okay, this is what it's going to look like. These are some of the challenges you're going to face as you go through your career. Nobody ever had that conversation with us. So I'm giving them tools that I didn't have when I was going through my career, right? I want to make sure that they understand that hey, you got to start thinking about retirement. Although you just got into the profession, you need to start thinking about 20, 30 years down the line. How can you take care of yourself? How can you build that nest egg, right? I wish somebody would have had that conversation with me because we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
On a beach
in
somewhere.
I'd be in Cabo San Lucas. I'd be somewhere, right, on the beach, right?
Same.
But financial literacy is really important because first thing I see is when you get a rookie officer, first thing they go do is go buy a new truck, right?
Yep.
Especially in Texas, right? They go buy these big fancy trucks, right? But they don't take into consideration, okay, the gas, insurance, how much is it going to cost for you, right? So then you find these officers working a lot of extra jobs, side jobs to make ends meet,
Yep.
right? So I wish that somebody would have had that conversation with me. But I talked to them. I talked to them about investment opportunities. What can you do to start putting money aside, right? And I always hit on this point is you got to find a balance,
Mm.
right? You got to find an outlet besides work, right? For me, I live out in the country. I got 5 acres. That is my therapy. I get out there. I go work on my land. That's my therapy. But you got to have an outlet. It just can't be work, work, work. And I find that a lot of the younger officers, that's all they do, right? Because they want that extra money. They become dependent on that extra money. So if you learn how to budget, you don't have to do all those things, right? So I wish somebody would have had that conversation with me. Like I said, the work-life balance is really important.
Mhm.
Uh, Early on in my career, I missed a lot of events for my kids because I was doing the same thing. I was working those side jobs, trying to make that extra cash, right? So I missed out on some milestones in my kids' lives, right? And
Yeah.
that's not something I'm proud of. So I wish that I would have had that conversation, right? Hey, look, take care of your family. Money's not everything. So I just wish that we could do more training in that area. We do it here with our officers when we bring them in. We make sure they understand that you got to have a balance in life. Don't put in for all these side jobs and take care of your mental health. Make sure you have an outlet. That's really important. Take care of yourself physically and mentally, and your family. That family's important. I talked about that at the beginning of the show. Is that we emphasize family. You have to take care of your family because if you're not taking care of your family, you're not going to be productive for us here if you're worrying about your family. So we place a lot of emphasis on family wellness. Make sure you take care of that family.
Yeah. And I think that, as hard as it is to look back and understand that maybe we made mistakes or maybe we didn't do something that we wish we would have done, it's our opportunity to teach others, and to have these conversations of, hey, like, you know, don't make the same mistake that I did. And I think that it's always easier said than done, but I think that if we can have these conversations and say, hey, like, we wish we were there for our family more. We wish we would have prioritized these things more. We wish we would have invested more. I'm with you. I'd be on the beach right next to you,
Right.
sipping a coconut and,
Yep. Right.
so I
Yeah.
think that, the more we can share those mistakes, the more opportunities others have to learn from us. So I appreciate you sharing that.
So yeah. So every chance that I get, it may be informal, but I call them these little informal sessions when I talk to my officers, maybe one on one in my office or out in the field. Is I drop some nuggets. I call them nuggets, right? I say, look, let me give you some advice. All right, here's what I did. Don't do this like I did it, right? Make sure you take a different path. So I try to share those because I think that's part of leadership is sharing those experiences with them to make them better officers. I want more leaders. I don't want followers, right? And I think that's part of leadership 101 is that, you know, you build them up, you empower them, and you give them opportunities to be successful, right? And you help them navigate some of the challenges they may face in their careers. And I think that's part of leadership.
I agree. And I think that the more you can build them up, the more opportunity they have to influence others behind them as well. And so it's this forever evolving thing because if someone's learning something from you and being like, man, like Chief really helped me to develop my leadership skills. Chief really helped me to learn from him and the things that he went through. I want to do that for other people. And so I think that it's influencing generations to come if you can be that person. I know you said that earlier, like be that person that influences other people's lives and be that leader. I think that if you can empower people, it's going to last for generations to come.
I agree. We're in the business, like I said, people business, and it's about lifting people up, right?
Mhm.
Lifting them up.
Yeah. How do you build that um, team environment and that camaraderie within the organization?
Well, we have a lot of different events away from work. Like we'll have a fall family day where we meet at the bowling alley. We encourage officers to bring their families out. So there's a lot of team building there. During police week, we had an event every single day. We had community sponsors that bought lunch, breakfast. I mean, just a lot of community support.
Yeah.
Uh, just a lot of bonding and officers coming together and breaking bread, away from work. That really has helped us, build that strong bonds between officers. We volunteer for different events. For example, Special Olympics.
Mhm.
Several officers ran the marathon for them as a team. So a lot of community events where they go out and support our department, and that's been really helpful for the officers when they get to talk to fellow officers away from work. Right, I think
Yeah.
that's important, right?
Yeah. I think that the more you can um, create that culture of wellness, where
Yeah.
people are excited to come to work, they're going to do a better job out in the community. If you feel like there's, this, like you said earlier, family unit, this extended family, rather than this division that's happening within the walls of the organization.
Right. And another thing we do here is we make sure we recognize good work, right? That's important. As a leader, you got to recognize good work.
Yeah,
And just recently, one of my officers was recognized as a top cop in San Antonio,
love
right?
it.
Yeah, he was top cop. And so I think it's important to recognize good work. That's
I
part of leadership as well.
I agree. And I think so often it's easy to focus on the mistakes or the negative things. And so you have to have both. You have to, build people up and not just tear them down all the time. And I think that, we see that. I had this conversation recently, actually. Like, there are so many good things that you guys do every single day. And it's not recognized in the same way that mistakes are, right? There's one mistake that's recorded on camera or, whatever, and it's blown up a million X, and all of the good work seems to just dissipate. And so I think the more, not just organizationally, but the more as a community, we can come together and really start to highlight and recognize the amazing, brave work that you guys are doing every single day and try to remember that when there is the one mistake that happens. And it's so disheartening. Like I see it where like on Instagram or something, you see like the snippet of something that you have no context as to what happened before or after, and all the comments and all the hate that goes out. And it's like, what about the thousands of noble acts that happened before that? Those just seem to go away. So I agree with you. I think organizationally, it's great to do that and recognize people and their hard work. I think as a community, we can do better about that too.
Yeah, and it's just human nature, Paige, that people want to focus on the negativity, right?
For sure. Yep.
So we have to work extra hard to make sure that we focus on the positive, right? As I mentioned earlier, I'm the biggest cheerleader here, right?
Mhm.
I'm going to advocate for my officers because they're doing some great work that a lot of people don't know about. And if I don't put that out there, then nobody's going to know what they're doing, right?
Right.
So I'm big on X, on social media. I put all the great work, right? All my stuff is very positive. And let me just hit on something here. We're not perfect. We're not perfect, but we strive to be, and we're going to make mistakes. And I'm very transparent. If we make a mistake and it was our mistake, we own it, we learn from it, and we move on, right? And that's what I think that's what the community expects. Okay. You're human. You make a mistake, don't try to cover it up, admit it, and move on. Own
Yeah,
it.
100%. And I really like that note of like as a leader, trying to showcase all of the good stuff as much as you can within the community to build that trust and for them to understand what's going on and have that transparency. Because you're right, a lot of times it's, anytime something hits the news, it's probably going to be something not so great. So, how can you front load that with the positive things as a leader and showcase that?
Yeah, for example, there's something that a lot of people don't know, but every year, every Christmas, our organization sponsors kids that are homeless in the district, right? There's like 50 of them, homeless kids. And every single kid that is on that list gets several gifts from our officers, right? But
Mm.
that's not something we highlight. We do it because officers want to do it. And we do a lot of things that the community doesn't know, but I try to highlight a lot of the great stuff that we're doing. And sometimes I miss out on some of that, but that's just one that every single year, there's no question, hey, are we in? Hey, what do you need from me? Let's do it.
I love that. Yeah, and I mean also like I saw firsthand, the pain in my dad's eyes when he didn't have the money to buy me gifts. And as a child, like I felt both of those emotions. I felt what it was like to not get a gift from my dad, and I also saw the pain and the shame and the disappointment that he wasn't able to provide for me. And so by being able to, you know, do that for a kid, you're also helping the parent who's struggling with that as well. It's really like I get emotional thinking about that, and it's really great work that you're doing. So I appreciate that so much. And I want to just kind of wrap with one final question, but then I'll let you take the floor if we missed anything else. But what words of wisdom would you share with someone who's earlier in their career? Maybe something that you wish you did know or something that's helped you along the way.
Like I said, take care of your mental health. Uh, you're going to work a lot of odd hours. You're going to miss some holidays. Focus on your family if you have a family, and especially on your kids. Don't miss out on those milestones in your kids' life. Be there. This job is going to be here after we're long gone, so make sure you take care of yourself, uh, your mental health and your physical health, and you'll have a great career if you do a couple of those things that I just mentioned.
Thank you. I appreciate your time so much. I appreciate everything that you're doing organizationally within your community, your youth. If there's anything we missed, I want to give you the opportunity to take the floor.
I think we covered a lot. We unpacked a lot. Like I said, I'm just really proud of the work that we're doing here. And I always brag about that I hire well. I have some outstanding individuals that that are just doing some amazing work in the community. I'm just blessed to have them on my team. So a shout out to my team.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to seeing all the great things that you and your organization do in the future.
Thanks, Paige, for having me here and keep up the great work. Like I said, you have a great platform. If we can help anyone, I think you're doing it with your platform.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mhm.